Hello, my name is Jonathan Harris from Worldwide Camera Exchange. I'm going to talk to you today about buying 2000 FC equipment second-hand. The 2000 FC equipment is the Hasselblad equipment with a built-in focal plane shutter. So there are some checks you need to make with this particular camera, which you wouldn't make with the more common mechanical 500 series cameras. Okay, so as always, fundamentally, I think you should check three areas. If you check these three areas, you won't go far wrong. Check the cosmetics of the equipment, check the mechanics and the electronics of the equipment, obviously to make sure it's working properly, and check the optics, check the glass. Okay, so first of all, just have a look at the cosmetics. Now this is important. Take time over this because this step will give you a very good idea of how well the camera has been treated. Just have a look overall. Have a look at the filtering. Make sure there are no nasty dings on the filtering. Make sure there isn't excessive wear on the knurling on the aperture or on the focus ring. Take the lens off. Don't forget to wind it on. It's got to be wound on. Take the lens off. Have a look at the lens mount here. Have a look at the lens mount here, and just make sure there isn't excessive wear. I mean, these are close to 40 odd years old now, so there will be some wear. You don't want excessive wear. Have a look on the corners, top of the viewfinder, top of the back, bottom of the back, bottom corners here, and all around on the chrome trim here, just to make sure that there are no nasty dings, no nasty dents. If you drop one of these on the corner of the back, you will leave an almighty ding in the corner. It might still work, but avoid like the plague. So just by looking at the cosmetics, you can build such a good picture of the life the camera's led. So don't cut that corner. The other thing, of course, to check is the mounting plates between the back and the body. So take the back off carefully, dark slide in, push that little lever across, off comes the back. Just make sure that's clean around there, and make sure that the back is clean there. If they've been heavily used, get a lot of metal coming through here. Again, a few marks, not an issue, but be very, very careful with equipment that's heavily used. One thing also to check while I'm here, particularly with these, now this is the one thing to be really, really careful of, is the shutter. The 2000 FC camera, the shutter is always there. When you take the back off the 2000 FCM camera, the shutter flips out of the way. The reason that camera was updated was that a lot of people were putting fingers and the corner of backs through the shutter. It is very, very vulnerable. It's a very thin foil. Check it carefully. I don't know how well you can see this, but on this one, just there, there's a little crease. Camera works perfectly. That was caused when somebody has put the back on, missed, and just banged the shutter. Just with the corner of the back. Very, very easy to do. As I said, this one is working fine, but 9 times out of 10, if that happens, you'll knock the shutter right out of position and effectively it becomes a write-off. So do check that very carefully. Okay, so if you're happy that it's cosmetically okay and it hasn't been absolutely abused, then I'll just move on to checking the mechanics. Just have a look at the lens. Make sure the lens is focusing nice and smoothly. Make sure the aperture mechanism is working nice and smoothly. You can use the depth of field preview there just to stop down the aperture, just to make sure that the aperture is stopping down. Take the dark slide out, set it on a relatively slow speed, maybe a half or a quarter of a second, and just fire the shutter. Just make sure that the aperture is closing down as it should be. Open the finder, go outside, focus on infinity, and just make sure the camera is focusing at infinity, not beyond infinity. Make sure it isn't stopping short of infinity. It should focus at infinity. But when you're doing that, make sure what you're looking at is a long, long way away. So a tower, radio mast, something in the distance. Focusing at something only 20 meters away, you might not be quite at infinity. So make sure you are right at infinity when doing that test. And if it focuses at infinity, you can be fairly confident that it'll be focusing accurately at the closest distances too. So check the lens there. Take the lens off. Again, wind it on. Take the lens off, and just fire it on one of the slow speeds, 1 second. And you should be able to see that the mirror's going up and down, and that the shutter is opening and closing as it should be. take it to maybe half a second, quarter of a second, do the same. Now, this next stage, be very careful. Very, very, very careful. Take the back off. Again, check it on 1 second. Make sure the shutter is opening and closing. Take it up to the highest speed, up to 2000th. Hold it up to the light, a bright light, and just make sure that you can see light coming through the shutter. You're not timing this. What you're doing is just making sure that the shutter isn't cutting the film gate off. So as you look through, you can see light on the right-hand side and you can see light on the left-hand side. If you can only see light halfway across and on the left-hand side, that's a sign that the shutter blind isn't clearing the entire film gate. So that's the problem. So check that. Okay, once you're happy with the shutters working well, have a look at the back. Dark slide in, back off. Again, do be careful with the shutter. Just open take the insert out and just make sure the number on the insert matches the number on the back itself. Sometimes they don't match. Not the end of the world. Ideally, you want them to. Put it on the camera, or just wind it on here until you get to number 1, and just make sure when you open the insert that little thing there, for the frame counter, just flicks back to number 1. Sometimes they'll stick and sometimes they don't go back to number 1. If they're sticking, it's a sign that the back itself does need servicing. Obviously you can't check that for light tightness without putting a film in, but with a camera like this, it is a good idea to run a test film through as well. So load a film, stick the lens on, take it outside, take some pictures. Take some shots at the highest speed at 2000th, take some shots at 1000th, and take some shots as you go down towards the slow speed as well, just to make sure that the shutter is operating as it should be and it's not cutting off any of the picture. As you wind through, you want to make sure that the frame spacing is good on the camera. One of these the weaknesses of one of the weaknesses of these backs is that you do sometimes get erratic spacing between frames. A little bit of change isn't an issue, but what you don't want is the negatives getting right next to each other or even overlapping each other. If you see that again, not necessarily the end of the world, but the backs do need a service. Okay, so at this point you've checked the cosmetics, everything's good. You've checked that it's working well. You've put a test film through to satisfy yourself it's working well. Last thing I'll check is just the optics. Take the lens off. Have a look at the mirror. Just make sure the mirror's clean. A few little scratches, not a problem. What you don't want is spots of fungus. I'll put a link up to spot that nasty stuff. Have a look in the lens, hold it up to a bright light, make sure there's no scratching, make sure there's no misting, make sure there's no fungus inside. 1 or 2 little marks on the front, 1 or 2 very little marks on the back. As long as it's just light scratching or light coating marks, won't make an issue. But those things do affect performance. Do affect value rather. So don't pay top dollar for a lens that's marked. Okay, so at this point you have checked the cosmetics. It's in good cosmetic condition. You've checked that it's working, you've run a test film through it, and you've checked the glass. If you've got a clear bill of health in those areas, the chances are you're going to have a good, reliable camera. I hope that's been useful. If you've got any comments, please stick them in the boxes below. Otherwise, please subscribe and like, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.